The Bible's giants, whispers from the dawn of time, of beings who walked the earth when humanity was still young. They are the Nephilim, figures shrouded in mystery, whose very existence challenges our understanding of the ancient world. Their story is a brief, cryptic passage, a few lines of scripture, debate, wonder, even fear. Who were they? Where did they come from? And what became of them? First, our journey begins where their story does, in the ancient pages of the book of Genesis, chapter 6. To understand the enigma of the Nephilim, we must first appreciate the literary landscape in which they appear. The preceding chapter lays out the long-lived patriarchal lineage from Adam to Noah. It's a world growing, expanding, and filling the earth. It is in this context of burgeoning humanity that we encounter a brief, almost cryptic, prologue. It's here, in just 4 verses nestled immediately before the cataclysmic account of the Great Flood, that we find the first, and perhaps most significant, mention of the Nephilim. The passage is short, almost startlingly so, given the centuries of debate it would inspire. Its interpretation is complicated by the very act of translation. The original Hebrew of the Masoretic text uses a specific, mysterious term, Nephilim. But when this text was translated into Greek for the Septuagint, centuries before the Christian era, the translators made a crucial choice. They rendered Nephilim as gigantes, the Greek word for giants. This single decision would forever shape how Western civilization pictured these beings. Modern translations often wrestle with this legacy. The New Revised Standard Version, for instance, reads, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went in to the daughters of humans, who bore children to them." The verse concludes with a tantalizing descriptor. "These were the heroes that were of old, warriors of renown." Heroes? Warriors? This description adds another layer of complexity. Were they monstrous aberrations or celebrated champions? The passage acts as a bridge, a theological explanation for the subsequent verses, where God observes the wickedness of humanity and resolves to cleanse the world. The implication is that this strange union and its offspring were the pinnacle of a world spiraling into corruption. This short but potent verse acts not as a full explanation, but as a spark. It doesn't satisfy our curiosity. It ignites it, forcing us to ask profound questions that have echoed through millennia of theological inquiry. Who precisely were these sons of God? Who were the daughters of humans? And what does it truly mean that their offspring became heroes of old, warriors of renown? The text provides the puzzle pieces, but arranging them has been the work of generations. These are not merely questions of translation, but of cosmology, of the nature of good and evil, and of the very boundaries between the divine and the mortal in the world before the flood. Second, the very name given to these beings, Nephilim, is a puzzle box of its own, a single word that has sparked centuries of debate. To unlock its meaning is to delve into the heart of ancient linguistics, where every syllable carries historical and theological weight. The name itself is our first and most profound clue to their nature. In the original Hebrew, the word is derived from the verbal root naphal, which simply means to fall. The im suffix denotes a masculine plural, giving us a literal translation of the fallen ones. This is the most direct etymological path, and it's a deeply evocative one. This rendering paints a picture of beings defined by a catastrophic descent. It carries the weight of tragedy, of a fall from grace. This interpretation suggests they are not merely large, but are beings who have transgressed a fundamental boundary, plummeting from a higher state of existence into the terrestrial realm. Their very identity is one of loss and displacement. However, this is not the only lens through which the Nephilim have been viewed. Centuries before the Christian era, when Jewish scholars in Alexandria translated the Hebrew scriptures into Greek, they made a pivotal choice. In this translation, known as the Septuagint, they rendered Nephilim with the Greek word gigantes. From this, we derive the English word giants. This wasn't just a simple substitution, it was an act of interpretation. The translators chose to emphasize the Nephilim's most prominent physical characteristic over their potential origin. This choice forever linked the Nephilim in the Western imagination with colossal stature and immense physical power, shifting the focus from their fall to their formidable presence on Earth. The scholarly debate doesn't end there. Some linguists propose alternative etymologies. One theory suggests the name comes from a causative form of the verb, meaning those who cause others to fall, implying they were corruptors or tyrants. Another connects it to an Aramaic word, Nephilim, referring to a constellation, hinting at a celestial astrological origin. So, are they fallen ones, giants, or tyrants? The ambiguity may be intentional. The truth may be that they were considered all of these things. The name itself might be a deliberate double entendre, a piece of literary genius conveying both their nature and their origin in a single resonant term. Third, they are something other, a fusion of the sacred and the profane, the celestial and the terrestrial. Their name is not just a label but a narrative, a story of a great fall, the birth of giants, and the shadow they cast over history. Fourth, the mystery of the Nephilim's parentage is the very heart of the debate. The oldest theory says the sons of God were angels, abandoning their station for forbidden unions. The offspring, the Nephilim, were half divine and half mortal, men of renown. A sacred order violated, leading to corruption and judgment. Another theory, from Augustine and others, identifies sons of God as the righteous line of Seth and daughters of humans as Cain's line, producing powerful human tyrants, not demigods. Fifth, in some readings, the Nephilim become a catalyst for the Great Flood, the flood as cosmic cleansing, erasing genetic and spiritual corruption. A preserved lineage, a world begun anew, free from the shadow of the fallen. Hope after judgment, order restored from chaos. The Great Flood was meant to be a divine reset for creation. One might assume the story of the Nephilim, the violent beings of the antediluvian world, ended beneath the waves. But the biblical narrative is not so simple. The name and the terror it inspires makes a shocking return after the waters receded. In the book of Numbers, as the Israelites stand at the threshold of the Promised Land, the specter of these giants rises again as a present threat. Moses sends 12 spies to scout the land of Canaan. When they return, 10 deliver a terrifying report. They speak of a fertile land inhabited by powerful, fortified peoples. Then they invoke the dreaded name. "We saw the Nephilim there," they claim, specifying the descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. This line reignites a primal fear, linking the new enemies in Canaan to the monstrous figures of Genesis. Their description culminates in a vivid expression of inadequacy. "We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." This is more than a size comparison. It's a confession of psychological collapse. Whether literal giants or formidable warriors, the Anakim were perceived as so overwhelmingly powerful that the spies felt utterly insignificant, their courage crushed before a battle was fought. This hyperbole justifies their fear and subsequent rebellion. Sixth, later traditions, fueled by such accounts, grew entire forests of lore around these figures, describing beings of colossal stature. The discovery of ancient megafauna bones, like those of mammoths, often provided seemingly tangible proof. The historian Josephus mentions that the bones of giants were displayed in his day. It's probable these were ancient fossils, reinterpreted through the lens of myth to fit a pre-existing narrative of a gigantic elder race. But the idea of powerful, semi-divine beings was not unique to Israel. Across the ancient Near East, parallels abound. Mesopotamian traditions spoke of the Apkallu, 7 semi-divine sages who lived before the flood, credited with bringing civilization to humanity. Like the men of renown in Genesis, they were extraordinary figures who walked the earth in a primordial age. The legendary hero Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, was himself described as 2/3 god and 1/3 man, a being of immense strength whose story echoes the biblical archetype of the mighty men, the heroes of old. Seventh, Further west, Greek mythology is filled with tales of the Titans and giants, powerful beings born from the union of gods and primordial forces who challenge the divine order. The archetype recurs across cultures, a blurring of the lines between the divine and the mortal, resulting in the birth of the extraordinary, the heroic, and often the monstrous. 8th, the Nephilim are Israel's unique framing of this widespread motif. Within its strict monotheistic worldview, they are not objects of worship or heroic celebration. Instead, they serve as a profound theological caution, a symbol of cosmic disorder, the disastrous consequence of crossing forbidden boundaries, and a reminder of the need to maintain the sacred distinction between the divine and the human. 9th, beyond the Bible, the Book of Enoch expands Genesis, quoted even in Jude. Watchers rebel. Samyaza leads a pact, taking human wives and teaching forbidden arts. Their giant offspring devour the earth, then turn on mankind, a world consumed. The flood becomes a surgical judgment upon the Watchers and their children. To finish, fact number 10, modern science is clear. There is no conclusive evidence of human giants that has been verified. Their story endures not because we have all the answers, but precisely because we don't. Some mysteries are meant to be pondered. We remain captivated by the shadow of giants. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe. See you in the next video.